The great Kabbalistic association, known in Europe under the name of Masonry, suddenly appears in the world at the moment when the protest against the Church has just dismembered Christian unity. The historians of this order do not know how to explain its origin. Some give it as its mother a free association of Masons, formed during the construction of the Cathedral of Strasbourg. Others give him Cromwell as founder, without wondering too much whether the rites of English Masonry in Cromwell's time were not organized against this leader of Puritan anarchy. There are some ignorant enough to attribute to the Jesuits, if not the foundation, at least the continuation and direction of this long secret and still mysterious society. Apart from this last opinion, which refutes itself, one can reconcile all the others by saying that the Mason brothers borrowed from the builders of the Cathedral of Strasbourg their name and the emblems of their art. We can add that they had the Templars for models, the Rosicrucians for fathers, and the Joanites for ancestors. Their dogma is that of Zoroaster and Hermes, their rule is progressive initiation, their principal equality regulated by the hierarchy and universal brotherhood. They are the successors of the school of Alexandria, heiress of all the ancient initiations. They are the repositories of the secrets of the Apocalypse and of the Zohar. The object of their worship is the truth represented by light. They tolerate all beliefs and profess only one and the same philosophy. They seek only the truth, teach only reality, and want to gradually lead all minds to reason. The allegorical goal of Masonry is the reconstruction of Solomon's Temple. The real goal is the reconstitution of social unity by the alliance of reason and faith, and the re-establishment of the hierarchy, according to science and virtue, with initiation and trials as degrees. Nothing is more beautiful, we see. Yours is greater than these ideas and these tendencies. Unfortunately, the doctrines of unity and submission to the hierarchy were not preserved in universal Masonry. There was soon a dissenting Masonry, opposed to orthodox Masonry, and the greatest calamities of the French Revolution owed the result of this split. The Freemasons have their sacred legend. It is that of Hiram, supplemented by that of Cyrus and Zerubbabel. Here is Hiram's legend. When Solomon built the temple, he entrusted his plans to an architect named Hiram. This architect, to put order in the work, divided the workers by ranks of skill, and as their multitude was great, in order to recognize them, either to employ them according to their merit, or to remunerate them according to their work, he gave each category, apprentices, companions and masters, passwords and particular signs. 3 companions wanted to usurp the rank of the masters without having the merit. They set themselves in ambush at the 3 main doors of the temple, and when Hiram presented himself to leave, one of the companions asked him for the watchword of the masters, in threatening him with his rule. Hiram answered him, "It is not thus that I received the note which you asked me." Hiram ran to another door. There he found the second companion, same request, same answer, and this Hiram was struck with a square, others say with a lever. At the 3rd gate was the 3rd assassin, who finished off the master with a blow of his mallet. These 3 companions then hid the corpse under a heap of rubble, and planted on this improvised grave a branch of acacia. Then they fled like Cain after the murder of Abel. However, Solomon, not seeing his architect return, sent 9 masters to fetch him. The branch of acacia revealed the corpse to them. They pulled him out of the rubble. And as he had stayed there long enough, they exclaimed as they lifted him up, Macbenak, which means, the flesh is detached from the bones. One returned to Hiram the last duties. Then 27 masters were sent by Solomon in search of the murderers. The first was surprised in a cave. A lamp was burning near him and a stream flowed at his feet. A dagger was near him for his defense. The master who entered the cave recognized the assassin, seized the dagger and struck him, shouting, "Nekim!" a word which means revenge. His head was carried to Solomon, who shuddered on seeing him, and said to him who had killed the assassin, "Unfortunately, did you not know that I had reserved the right to punish myself?" Then all the masters prostrated themselves and asked for mercy for the one whom his zeal had carried away too far. The second murderer was betrayed by a man who had given him shelter. He was hidden in a rock near a burning bush, on which a rainbow shone. A dog was lying near him. The masters deceived the vigilance of the dog, seized the culprit, bound him and led him to Jerusalem, where he perished from the last torture. The third assassin was killed by a lion, who had to be defeated to seize his corpse. Other versions say that he defended himself with an axe against the masters, who finally managed to disarm him and led him to Solomon, who expiated his crime. Such is the first legend. Now here is the explanation. Solomon is the personification of supreme science and wisdom. The temple is the realization and the figure of the hierarchical reign of truth and reason on earth. Hiram is the man who reached the empire through science and wisdom. He rules by justice and order, rendering to each according to his works. Each degree of the order has a word which expresses its intelligence. There is only one word for Hiram, but this word is pronounced in 3 different ways. In a way for the apprentices, and pronounced by them it signifies nature and is explained by work. In another way for the companions, and with them it signifies thought by being explained by study. In another way for the masters, and in their mouths it means truth, a word which is explained by wisdom. This word is the one used to designate God, whose true name is inexpressible and incommunicable. Thus there are 3 degrees in the hierarchy, as there are 3 doors in the temple. There are 3 rays in the light, there are 3 forces in nature. These forces are represented by the rule which unites, the lever which raises and the mallet which strengthens. The rebellion of brutal instincts, against the hierarchical aristocracy of wisdom, successively arms itself with these 3 forces which it diverts from harmony. There are 3 typical rebels: the rebel against nature, the rebel against science, the rebel against truth. They were represented in the hell of the ancients by the 3 heads of Cerberus. They are represented in the Bible by Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. In the Masonic legend, they are designated by names which vary according to the rites. The first, usually called Abiram or murderer of Hiram, strikes the Grand Master with the ruler. It is the story of the just man put to death, in the name of the law, by human passions. The second, named Mephibosheth, from the name of a ridiculous and crippled pretender to the kingship of David, strikes Hiram with the lever or with the square. It is thus that the popular lever or the square of a mad equality becomes the instrument of tyranny in the hands of the multitude and waiting, more unfortunately than the rule, for the royalty of wisdom and virtue. The third finally completes Hiram with the mallet. As brutal instincts do when they want to create order in the name of violence, and fear by crushing intelligence. The acacia branch on Hiram's tomb is like the cross on our altars. It is the sign of science which survives science, it is the green branch that announces another spring. When men have thus disturbed the order of nature, Providence intervenes to restore it, like Solomon to avenge the death of Hiram. He who murdered with the ruler, dies by the dagger. He who strikes with the lever or the square, will die under the axe of the law. It is the eternal arrest of the regicides. He who has triumphed with the mallet will fall victim to the force he has abused, and will be strangled by the lion. The assassin by the rule is denounced by the very lamp which illuminates him and by the source where he drinks. That is to say, the penalty of retaliation will be applied to him. The assassin by the lever will be surprised when his vigilance fails like a sleeping dog, and he will be delivered by his accomplices, for anarchy is the mother of betrayal. The lion which devours the assassin by the mallet is one of the forms of the Sphinx of Oedipus. And this one will deserve to succeed Hiram in his dignity who will have defeated the lion. Hiram's rotting corpse shows that the forms change, but the spirit remains. The spring of water flowing near the first murderer recalls the deluge that punished crimes against nature. The burning bush and the rainbow which make discover the second assassin represent the light and the life, denouncing the attacks against the thought. Finally, the vanquished lion represents the triumph of spirit over matter and the definitive submission of force to intelligence. Since the beginning of the work of the Spirit to build the Temple of Unity, Hiram has been killed many times, and he always rises again. It is Adonis killed by the boar, it is Osiris assassinated by Typhon. It is Pythagoras proscribed, it is Orpheus torn by the Bacchantes, it is Moses abandoned in the caves of Mount Nebo, it is Jesus put to death by Caiaphas, Judas, and Pilate. The true Masons are therefore those who persist in wanting to build the temple, following Hiram's plan. Such is the great and principal legend of Masonry. The others are no less beautiful and less profound, but we do not believe we should divulge their mysteries, although we have received initiation only from God and from our works. We regard the secret of high Masonry as the hour. Arrived by our efforts at a scientific rank which imposes silence on us, we believe that we are better bound by our convictions than by an oath. Science is a nobility that obliges, and we will not demerit the princely crown of the Rosicrucians. We also believe in the resurrection of Hiram. The rites of Masonry are intended to transmit the memory of the legends of initiation, to preserve it among the brothers. We will perhaps be asked how, if Masonry is so sublime and so holy, it could have been proscribed and so often condemned by the Church. We have already answered this question, speaking of the splits and desecrations of Masonry. Masonry is Gnosis, and the false Gnostics have had the true ones condemned. What forces them to hide is not the fear of the light is what they want, what they seek, what they adore. But they fear the profaners, that is, the false interpreters, the slanderers, the stupid laughing skeptics, and the enemies of all belief and all morality. In our time, moreover, a large number of men who believe themselves to be Freemasons are unaware of the meaning of their rites, and have lost the key to their mysteries. They no longer even understand their symbolic pictures, and no longer understand anything of the hieroglyphic signs with which the carpets of their lodges are depicted. These tables and these signs are the pages of the Book of Absolute and Universal Science. They can be read using the Kabbalistic keys, and they have nothing hidden for the initiate who possesses the clavicles of Solomon. Masonry has not only been profaned, but it has even served as a veil and a pretext for the plots of anarchy, by the occult influence of the avengers of Jacques de Molay, and the continuators of the schismatic work of the Temple. Instead of avenging Hiram's death, we avenged his killers. The anarchists have taken up the rule, the square and the mallet, and have written on them liberty, equality, fraternity. That is to say, freedom for covetousness, equality in baseness, and brotherhood to destroy.